Hello, Janet. Brian Wheeler here. Oh, you're muted.
There. Hi, Brian. Thank you for the notice and for making it so easy to connect.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you're here. I was getting worried.
I'm getting used to doing things by Zoom. I took a class over the weekend on Zoom.
Oh, wow.
So,
It has changed our lives.
yes. How's the search for a new city manager going?
Well, I will be getting updates from council as they start that process, but no update at this point.
Now, I don't see you. I see the logo, Charlottesville logo, which I really
I'm
love.
hiding behind the logo. My laptop is closed, so my camera is not facing out.
That's a good thing to do. I'll remember that.
I don't worry about it as much when I'm not a participant in the meeting.
Well, I'm sure social services has been very busy. I'm hopeful we don't have a lot of food insecure people, but I'm sure we do.
Yep. And for your knowledge, and I'll tell the others as they join, the recording for the meeting has started. So
Okay.
we're now recording this Zoom session.
I'll turn my mute off. I'll unmute myself or mute myself so that there's no echo as others join.
All right. Hello, Diane. It's Brian Wheeler. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
Good.
Thank you for hosting this for us.
No problem.
Nice to see you, Diane. You look like you're surviving.
I am. You look great. Beyond surviving.
And Diane, we are recording at this point on the Zoom webinar.
Great.
And I decided not to stream the meeting on our social media channels. But certainly if you think you're must-see TV on all social media, I can turn that on for future meetings if you need it.
Okay. This will do. Now, how if there are public people, will they be allowed in at this meeting?
They will come on as an attendee.
Okay.
And then if you need to address them or invite them to make comments, I can help facilitate that.
Yes, and we usually do that before, right after the call to order. We usually do that, Brian.
Great.
And then at the end of the meeting, we again will allow public comments. Does that work for you?
That works.
Okay.
Hello, Shayla.
Hello, how are you?
Doing fine.
Good.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Rebecca, Shayla is our new member, Shayla Gibbons.
And hi, Rebecca.
Hi, Shayla. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Janet. Hi, Diane.
Hey there.
Diane, we're waiting on 3 people, it looks like.
Hi, May. Hi, Judy.
How is everyone surviving?
I'm considering that we're on the second half. We've made it through 6 months, and I'm hoping by mid-March, we're able to get together again. So I'm considering we're on the downhill part.
I hope that's right, Janet.
So do I. Just don't watch the news to contradict that.
Can tell you the hospital has been very swamped.
Oh,
Since the students came back,
I think in general, we just don't have enough staff to keep up with the amount of people coming to the hospital. I think it has, some to do with COVID, but I think it has a lot to do with a lot of things kind of closed down, and people didn't seek primary care or go to their regular doctor's appointments because either they couldn't or people were meeting via telehealth, which isn't always optimal for a lot of disease conditions. And people are starting to come back to regular appointments now, but everything that's sort of been delayed, we're seeing that the effects of that now. So it's been really crazy.
so that's been the problem with like GI department where they call me, they switch around appointments. I'm overdue for a 10-year procedure and they sound like then they shut things down during COVID and now they're open again. And so now they're playing catch up.
well, I suggest we start the meeting. May, you probably don't know that, well, I don't know that any of you know this. Chrissy has resigned due to her own work demands. So she said it's not to do with the board. She wished she could continue with us, but she can't at this point in time. And if I'm not mistaken, May, you're our vice chair. If you'd like to take over the agenda, you can. If you prefer this meeting that I I do the agenda? It's totally up to you, May.
I'm gonna prefer that I'll let you do it for this meeting. Um, I do also have to say I'm probably having a baby this week.
Goodness.
What?
February, May.
I know. So here's my. Oh, I don't know if you can see me. I'm pretty.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
News.
Uh,
That's wonderful.
yeah.
Okay.
And then
Congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a little nuts for me. I have one more day of work tomorrow, and then I should be having the baby anytime between Thursday and Sunday.
You're with us today. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Here's the good news. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
So
You sure have a lot going on in your life, but I hope you have time to send us an email about the baby.
yeah, of course. So I'll keep you all updated, but hormones and life is crazy right now, so I will let you could do this month.
I will do it for you. No problem. Okay. All right. So first, I'd like to know if there's any public comment out there, Brian.
And
Well,
Diane, right
nothing-
now, you do not have an audience.
Okay. Well, then we'll just move on. Thank you. And I want to introduce our new board member, Shayla Gibbons. And Shayla works for the city in the Department of Human Services. Shayla, could you tell folks a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shayla Gibbons. I work as a human services planner for the Department of Human Services. So that basically means I do a lot of grant writing and community metrics and planning community programs that benefit some of the underserved folks in our community. Before that, I worked at the Haven for about 3 years. And before that, I was doing a lot of other nonprofit work with Habitat and Charlottesville Free Clinic. So I have a lot of experience in the nonprofit sector, but ultimately I just love helping people. And so that's kind of the heart of what I do. And that's why I wanted to join this board. So thanks for welcoming me.
Yes, welcome. Glad you're on the board.
Thank you.
Okay. Did everybody get a chance to read the February minutes? I know I read them and I thought if there's any corrections, I wouldn't know what they were at this point in time.
So I guess we should approve them.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Raise your hand so we can
Oh.
see everybody. All right. Minutes for February have been approved. Okay. And Shayla, this is our part of our meeting where the board members report on things that they have to share. So I'm opening it to whoever would like to speak at this point.
I would like to know if there's food insecurity in Charlottesville, and are you seeing an increased workload from the situation that we're in?
We are definitely seeing an increase in our benefit programs, and I'll share some data with you a little later, but it's a huge increase in benefit applications. And thankfully for months, we didn't have to do reviews and renewals for folks. But now we're being required to go back and start doing all those overdue reviews and renewals. The influx of new cases has slowed down somewhat from the spring and summer, but now we've got just a huge backlog in renewal work. Since you asked, I'll tell you that in our benefit programs, the nice thing about SNAP benefits, now SNAP benefits are based on income levels. So some people may have 4 people in their family and be getting $450 a month in SNAP benefits, whereas somebody else may have 4 people in their family and be getting $100 a month. because it's based on a graduated scale of income. The nice thing about SNAP benefits since the pandemic, quickly after the pandemic, SNAP benefits, everybody, no matter what their qualification was getting the maximum for the number of people that were in their household. So that was really beneficial and really helpful for people not having to reapply with a new income. Didn't matter what their income change was, they were getting the maximum. And so for many people, that was a huge increase in SNAP benefits. At the same time, you know, there are people out there that some of it is pride, not wanting to ever apply for benefits. And, you know, we've been doing some outreach, trying to make sure that our community partners know that, you know, please send people our way. We are, you know, a community rich in nonprofits. We have been, you know, sending people to the food banks. We've been, and thankfully the schools had kept up meals for the kids. And so on the whole, I think we are probably in a better situation than many communities. But I couldn't speak and say that there is nobody that is food insecure right now. I can't say yes or no to that. I just don't have that information. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Diane.
Yeah, and Laura, I don't know if you can put any of those statistics up, or did you send them out to board members? I can't recall.
I did not send them out.
Okay, so we can discuss that in a little bit. Any reports from members?
I haven't been doing anything other than semi-quarantine, so I don't have anything to report.
We're just glad you're here, Judy.
Thank you. So am I.
Glad that you're willing to stay on the board until a replacement. Judy has been on for almost 10 years now. She's full.
That's amazing.
And also a partial term that she filled in the beginning when she first came on the board. So again, thank you so much, Judy, for continuing with us until we get someone to fill your slot, so to speak. Not fill your shoes, because that's not possible, but
Thank you.
position on the board. Okay, so I want to go through some of our statistics. Some of you may have seen some of this early on in the Daily Progress, had asked for statistics and gave them statistics on our benefit programs and what was happening in the spike in cases and benefits. And so I'll start off with our benefit programs. And mind you that most of our folks are still working at home. The building is closed to the public other than for voter registration. And on any given day, we probably have 10 to 15 employees in our, well, I shouldn't say in our building because there are employees in IT up on our 4th floor too, but we have 108, 107, 108 employees, a few vacancies, but we'll, on any given day, we maybe have 10 to 15 people that are in the building. Benefit programs, we are so grateful that we live in the times when people can apply online, they can ask for a paper ballot that we can mail, they can put it back in our outdoor mail box. If it gets mistakenly put in the voter registrar one, they give it to us, we give voter registrar ones to them. But they can also, you know, call, we can do an application by phone. But our benefit workers, we have social services assistants who are answering our front desk phones during business hours. And then that team of social services assistants also does the scanning because people used to scan in paper applications. So they do the scanning and it goes straight out boxes on the state systems, and all that processing can be done. And again, for many months, the state did not require us to do an interview with people. That has changed now too. We can still do them by phone, but we've had to start doing the interviews for new applicants and for renewals also. So that has worked so well. We've had very few reasons for our benefit staff to be in the office. Our service staff come in most of the time. They are in the office only, again, technology is helping them do their work. They're in the office when they have to get, I still have to sign paperwork for the courts, for the state. So they come into the office. I'm in the office most days that I'm not on leave. I'm in the office. And they will give me a heads up. Sometimes it's only a few hours, but they'll give me a heads up. They're coming in to get things signed. And I will tell you, thankfully, one of the great upticks since this pandemic has started is the number of adoptions of children. Some are kinship, some are not, but it's been incredible. I think this is probably the heaviest flow of adoption stuff that has been happening since I've been director. Well, and there were not nearly as many adoptions before I became director either, but this has been that has been the one thing that has really upticked. So a lot of that is paperwork signatures and financial signatures for financial stuff, because adoptions, people can still get financial assistance. So that has been really great. And I just want to say welcome, Lisa. Good to see you.
Thank you. I'm sorry I was in the wrong place on the line, waiting in a room. Okay.
Have you with us in our room.
Thank you.
I'm losing my train of thought here, but our service workers are still we're required to do monthly visits for all of our prevention cases and our foster care cases, and many of those they were able to do online or outside with PPE on, meaning masks and face guards and things like that, and unfortunately, and I say this unfortunately because I don't see that we are anywhere near the end of this pandemic, they are now being required to make in-person visits. And they're being told they should go in the homes for these foster care placements and stuff. And we're trying to get an exception on some of these in-person visits, as we have one child placed in North Carolina and we have another child placed in Utah. So we have restrictions on travel for city government employees right now. And frankly, I don't want my folks traveling to North Carolina or to Utah for their safety, for the children's safety, and for everybody's families and the people that they need to be with in person. So we are trying to get the state to give a little bit more guidance on this. But a lot of the meetings they were doing by Zoom, those we're trying to do in person outside at this point and not have to go into homes. But we're just, we're working on that piece of it. I think the state at times, because they don't actually do the work, it's not always thought through what the consequences are for everybody involved. I mean, including, one of our employees that have COVID, and the last thing we want is them going into the home and bringing the COVID into the home themselves. So we have had a few cases of children coming into care because of COVID exposure, and we have had foster parents step up to the plate to take these children, and thankfully the children did not have COVID. But there's been some, I shouldn't say some, there's always amazing foster care parents out there, but in these times, it's really amazing what people in so many regards, you know, the things that they're doing and taking on. Caseload wise, like I said, we've had an explosion in benefit program applications. So, Laura, I don't think that information is up, right?
Let me see if this works. Can you see my screen?
Can people see these numbers?
Yes.
Okay. So as you'll see, this is benefit programs, and you'll see March through June of 2019, and then March through June of 2020. Now, you won't see the increase in Medicaid in 2020 because you have to remember that March through June last year, this is when Medicaid expansion finally was approved in the state of Virginia. And so that's why we had such an explosion of applications last year. In a general year, we wouldn't be seeing 779 Medicaid applications in a quarter. And these are applications, so that's not how many people we're serving with Medicaid. These are just new applications. So it looks like, oh, but we had a decrease in March to June of this year. Well, the 565 is really higher than a usual year by far. Then you'll see SNAP benefits between 2019 and then 2020, and the increase in those benefits. And then TANF, you'll see. Now, TANF is Temporary Assistance to Needy Families. TANF applications almost doubled. And TANF applications doubling, I mean, all of this is directly related to people losing their jobs or losing their full-time jobs. And we can see the cases served last March of 19 for Medicaid was 4,200. July of this year, 5,100. SNAP has gone up by 15%, and TANF has gone, and this is only through July. TANF had gone up just 13 or so. But again, TANF is limited to very low income folks with children. You have to have children to have temporary assistance for needy families. For SNAP and Medicaid, children are not a requirement. Again, if you look at clients served cross programs, so these are clients that are receiving benefits, not just in one program, but over 8,200 in July of this year. For Medicaid, SNAP 45, almost 4,500, and TANF 500. The average caseload, not caseload, but caseloads for the agency for March through June are also down there for the 2 years, and similarly the average. Laura, one is the average of cases and the other is the average of people. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So, you'll see that 8,000 people over 8,000 people in the city were receiving Medicaid in 2020, that quarter. And an increase also in SNAP and TANF benefits. Now again, with the SNAP benefits, there's also, even the people that were on the SNAP were receiving an increase in their payments of benefits up to the highest amount they could receive for the number of people in their household.
So when you have an application that's new, would those people be counted again in the next month? Because, or their services continue into the next month?
services continue into the next month, but they have to do renewals depending upon the program, every 6 to 12 months, there has to be a review and a renewal. But they don't have to reapply, but our workers are supposed to contact them, and they didn't have to do this until, again, they disregarded that. We didn't have to do the reviews and the renewals, but they have to contact them to see if there's been any increase or decrease in their circumstances financially, which would change whether they still qualified, or if they qualified for more than they were getting. But we've had to start those reviews and renewals again now. But we did not have to do that for March through August. That did not.
I'm wondering about the total number of people or families served. Is it cumulative, so that there's like, if you see the applications from June and then you get new applications from July, you're actually servicing all of those people?
Yes. It's not, yes. Those applications are all added into the people we're already serving. If they qualify, yeah. They're all added in.
So there's a huge number of people receiving benefits thanks to the work you're doing. Do we know how many people that is?
Let's see, these are cases served and clients. So you'll see clients served. So that's, there's in Medicaid in July of 2020, we had almost 5,100 cases, but the number of people on those cases was over 8,200. So many of those are, one or two people in a family, but there's 8,200 people that were getting Medicaid. So that's about 1 out of 6 people in the city of Charlottesville, or more than 1 out of 6 people in the city of Charlottesville. Does that answer your question, Janet?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Laura, can you move us to protective services? Okay, so this is adult protective services and child protective services. Now, both of those are referral based. So that's not necessarily, well, at times people might come into our department, they're in a domestic violence situation and they may come in for services and they get, put in either adult protective or child protective services, but most of these are referrals. And in our child protective services, most of our referrals come from city schools. The second largest provider of referrals to child protective services is the medical profession. Those are both mandatory reporters. They don't have to determine whether there is child abuse or neglect. They just have to suspect and they have to report. Likewise, ministers, priests, even coaches now are mandatory reporters. Well, with the shutdown in the schools and outdoor activities, sports activities, children not getting their medical checkups or even, getting seen for stitches or broken bones or whatever, you will see that our reports in child protective services went way down in the quarter March through June. And these are the latest statistics we have from the state's data. And that's why, we don't have July through September yet. But you'll see that in 2019, we had 196 reports, and in 2020, it was 133. Now, you would hope that that meant that we were just being kinder and gentler with our children. I don't know that that's the case. I just know that the children are not being seen by other adults as frequently and as often, and adults that know them. And so, that has us concerned. We also, if you look at the Adult Protective Services, the same thing has happened. And when I see that, I look and I say, I hope that neighbors are checking in on their neighbors. Because again, some of those folks, some of the reports we get, again, now Adult Protective Services is different than Child Protective Services. It's not mandatory reporters, but many of our reporters in Adult Protective Services are neighbors, were medical professionals for sure, were bankers who were seeing people come in with somebody at their side requesting to withdraw $5,000 and then handing it over to, people. I mean, and so we have a lot of Adult Protective Services in the community. Again, people aren't seeing these people. They may see the second cousin that, comes over to the house, and they think that they're only coming to the house to, see what the person needs, and they're coming to the house to ask for money. And there's nobody else that is necessarily there. So again, we had a huge drop also in reports in 2020 to APS. So those are things we're concerned about, but again, we can't be knocking on doors. That is not, that is not our role. And I just, I encourage anybody who is out there and has, you don't have to be assured of anything. You just have to suspect, and we will screen it whether it's valid or not valid. And if it's screened valid for Child Protective Services, we'll determine whether we need to do a family assessment or we need to do an investigation. Now, many of the investigations are the more serious things, and that's, we're still getting those reports often from the police or fire, but we are seeing, a big drop in reports for both of those, which concerns us. There's no doubt about it, but at the same time, we're not putting any kinds of technology screening in people's homes to see what's going on, and we're not that kind of state, and we don't want to be that kind of state, but we do ask that folks, if they see something, suspect something, let us investigate it.
Are we
at least assess it? And a lot of times for our older Adult Protective Services, it's really an assessment. Do these people need a companion to come in and make sure that they're getting their groceries and they're getting, help with bathing or something like that, so they don't need to be in an assisted living placement or a nursing home, which are not the safest places for people right now either. So we just, it's not always something that is with our adult clients. Oftentimes it's self-neglect because they're losing the ability to manage on their own. And yet they don't need to be in a facility. If they got some help in their home, oftentimes that's all that's needed at that point in time.
So Diane, I see we're seeing the drop in reports. Are we seeing the same difference in investigation findings?
The reports that we are getting, they're all assessed whether they're valid or not.
Right.
So the majority of them, even the majority that were coming from the schools, didn't rise to being validated. But these are the reports that were received. We're not seeing, worse things for children. I mean, it's not like there's a big uptick in the ones that are being investigated. And Laura, can you go to the next, the child welfare data? So what you'll see here is our foster care caseload has actually gone down. Now, a few of those may be due to the fact that we're not getting as many reports, but a lot of those are due to, if you go to the top of this page and see adoptions, a lot of the children that were in foster care, we have completed in that quarter, we had 30 more adoptions since June of 2019. So these were children that, for whatever reason, parental rights were terminated. And then you'll see 30 adoptions, and a number of those adoptions are kinship adoptions, so they're being adopted by family members. But we did, as you'll see when you go down to foster care, we did have a decrease. And we are concerned that there may be children out there that we just don't know about, again, because of decrease in our reports. And that's why I say, it's just important for, if you haven't seen your neighbor's children outside playing forever, just talk to them or see, how they're doing or something. And I'm not saying that you should be not social distancing, but there are concerns as far as there may be things out there we just don't know about. And so many of our reports now are coming from the police because they come into something. They're sometimes the most serious cases, of course, that we get reports on. But you'll see, again, there's been a huge decrease from June in foster care to June 19 to June 20. And I can't say that's all due to the pandemic. Some of it is due to us, the increase in adoptions we've had for children in foster care. But yeah, and we still, if children, we've had a number of new children come into care, and we still look for kinship placements. We're still looking for families, whether they be kinship or fictive kin, so that the children, if they're coming into care, they know the people they're with. And we still do all of our criminal background checks on folks that are fostering, whether they're kin or non-kin. And so all of that work is still getting done, but we are concerned that when the schools do open, when children are outside playing more, when they are being seen more by medical professionals, we are concerned that there could be a great uptick in reports. Does that make sense to everyone? Is that understandable? And concerning, it's concerning to me, it's concerning to us, I should say. And we're not the only social services department that is seeing the same thing. There's concerns all around about this. Thank you, Laura, for the data. Are there any more questions about the data or how we're doing our business right now? No?
I was just gonna, this is Janet. I was just gonna say, when we had 2 foster children from Ohio, Virginia agreed to see them for the Ohio Social Services. I don't know if North Carolina would make some kind of arrangement with you for that, but surely they've got cases that they don't want to come to Virginia. Yeah. So I don't know if that could be worked or not.
We have done that in the past too, and there's interesting things. There's certain states that will do that and other states that won't do that. So I'm sure that my family services section is working on whether they can get somebody in North Carolina and in Utah to visit. Again, not necessarily go into the home, but to visit the child outside the home at least, or children. So yes, that is certainly something we're working on. And these children, it's not that they haven't been seen necessarily on Zoom, but the state is now requiring the in-person again. And so that's disconcerting in many regards for the children, the families they're with, and for our workers themselves. And Laura is our PPE person, so she keeps on hand all sorts of protective gear for folks, and our folks go out with masks in case the people they're visiting don't have masks, and we have children-sized masks also, disposable masks, and they go out with their supplies. We try to make it as safe as possible, but it's still safer to meet outside than it is to be meeting inside for any meeting. As we're sitting here on, Zoom instead of meeting in person. But I miss you all.
Yeah. Diane,
Yes.
one thing that has kind of come up, and this is just an idea I'm working on. I know you're getting swamped between new applications and now having to do the reapplicants.
Right.
Is there any way? So in the city, we have a number of people who work for other departments. It's not as easy to be working remotely.
Right.
Is there any way that somebody who isn't really trained in social services could help you in some areas to alleviate some of that pressure?
The amount of training for benefit workers is extensive. They are on a training team for anywhere from a year to 2 years.
That's what I thought.
So, yeah, and we have a full training team because we've lost some employees and we've hired new people, and so it just it's not like you can go in and learn a program in a day or something like that, where we could train people that way, because it's complicated. But it's a good idea and suggestion. It's just not something that, I couldn't go down right now and go into what's called VACMS, which is the benefit programs software. I couldn't go in and do an application.
Or is there other areas that could, that benefits workers are having to do other things that somebody else could take off their plate so they could do more? That's what I'm kind of trying to think of outside the box.
I know. And I look and I say, the complication goes all the way to our front desk people who are trying to answer questions about every program and what qualifies and what doesn't qualify and what do I yeah, exactly. Yeah. It kind of goes through the whole agency. It's a great idea, and I think there's probably other opportunities maybe in the city for some of that, but it really is. It doesn't work very well in social services, because no matter what, where people are, unless they're coming from another local social services agency, unless they've already had that experience, there's a long training program. And even in our family services, when we hire new social workers, we do things so differently. And I forgot to mention this. The Casey Foundation, which is Family and Children's Foundation and nationally, but the Casey Foundation, its headquarters are in New York. They called us for a Zoom call because they wanted to know how we were doing so well with kinship placements and had such a high percentage of our foster care folks in kinship. And along with them on there was, it's really about grandparents, but I think it's Generation something or other. It's a national organization. I can't off the top of my head, because this was a number of months ago. I think it was June or July when we had a Zoom meeting with them, but they were also on this same meeting because of so many grandparents taking in their grandchildren. And so, you know, I just thought, wow, you know, we're getting some national recognition for this right now. And I think part of that is one of the deputy directors at the state level moved over to the Casey Foundation. In fact, he's, you know, he works up in the new towers up in New York City now for the Casey Foundation. So that's probably how they knew about what we were doing. But it was a good hour and a half conversation we had with them. So again, we are so grateful in this community that, and some of our kin come from far too. They're not all in the community, but we are so grateful for the way people step up. And you know, I know just from having one grandchild that's not with me all the time, it's a lot of work. It's a lot. You know, you get to be a certain age, and it's not the same as when you're 30 or 35 and trying to take care of young children or teenagers. Some of them are taking on teens, which God bless them. You know, that's what I say. God bless them, because they are, you know, they are stepping up to the plate, and some of it is the hard work we do and explaining to, like, Casey Foundation. From the minute we know children are coming into care, we are immediately searching for relatives, near and far, and we do it extensively. So, yeah. So a lot of it is kinship placement, sometimes without children having to even come into care. We can provide some supports for the families without children having to come into care. Other children are in care, but they're in kinship care. So, I'm not trying to brag here because I'm not the one that's on the ground doing all the groundwork for it, but we definitely have put into place methods to make this work. And they had asked us, well, what happens if you hire somebody and they don't buy into this? I said, they don't last through probation. It's not a matter of whether you're going to buy into the way we're doing it. It's a matter of, this is the expectation. The expectation and the knowledge is that children, there is a biological connection. And sometimes, again, it's fictive kin because, you know, they've been in children or child's life forever. And that connection is important when children are being removed from their family home.
Thank you for taking the effort for these children. It's wonderful.
So again, I don't want to take the credit for it because the effort starts with our social workers and our child protective workers, our foster care workers, our foster care prevention, preservation is the majority of either assessments or investigations. The majority, we have many more families that are receiving assistance, whether it be family counseling or just financial assistance or assistance finding jobs. And we have many more families that we're supporting in that way to keep the family unit together. Because often, I mean, the majority of our calls are not abuse or sexual abuse or physical abuse. The majority is neglect. And oftentimes with neglect, it's very young parents or it's people that are struggling to pay their bills. And so adding on childcare or adding on, you know, finding a new place to live and they need first month rent and a security deposit. And, you know, so many of these are not, you know, what classically is considered child abuse in the sense of physical or sexual abuse. A lot of it is neglect. And probably, you know, supervision for the age and or children, you know, without adequate clothes, they're not receiving medical assistance, they're not receiving medications they should be getting, and, you know, so there are ways that we do our best, one, to keep the family together to begin with, and if not, to keep the
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
In your preventive services, what can you do in those cases where it's really the parents want to take care of their child, but they're stressed over many other things?
Oh, you know, we do all sorts of things. We help people find jobs. We help people with transportation to jobs, finding childcare. folks on our TANF program are immediately referred, if the child, they don't have a child under a year old or they don't have a disability, are immediately referred to our VIEW program, which is the Virginia Initiative for Education, or I should say Education and Work, and we immediately are trying to get them so that they can. And sometimes it's families that are too proud to apply for benefits. And you know, a few times it's just, you know, getting them connected with benefits so that they do have adequate income in order to keep their family intact. So, you know, we look at all avenues of, and we also look, and I think this is an important part too, we made this with the Casey Foundation, we look at family strengths, you know, we don't just look at, you know, where they need help, but what strengths do they have? What support systems do they have around them that we can call into play to support them? And we do that with our family partnership meetings. You know, it's amazing how many people we don't have to remove their children if their neighbors can step up, you know, 2 evenings a week when they have to work and say, I can keep the kids until 9 o'clock. You know, one of our big issues is people can get jobs at UVA, but they get the night shift and there's no childcare. And there's childcare if you're a doctor, but there's not childcare if you're cleaning the toilets. And that's a big issue for folks. So we work on all levels, Janet, with people trying to keep the family together. Again, if it's a matter of neglect and not a matter of abuse. I mean, when there's physical or sexual abuse or whatever, you know, often the children have to immediately be removed. Does that answer your question at all?
Yes.
Hey, and I have a question for you, Sam. At the, I think it was the August, no, it would have been the June or July, or July or August meeting, we were approved for this meeting and for our October meeting, but we were only approved for those two. How do we get approved for a November meeting, a December meeting?
Council is actually going to be having a special meeting about committees and boards.
Okay.
Because what we're facing is we only have so much staff time.
Yeah, communications.
Our communication staff only has, and we keep, you know, you keep sitting here saying, okay, is it going to be next? Is it going to be next? But, and as you can tell, we have to have Brian, even when one of the communication staff isn't having to participate, they're still having to run the meeting and they're still having to close the meeting.
Right. And the city only has so many Zoom.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors to this, and we have 63 boards and commissions.
Right.
As well as council meetings, as well as our strategic planning stuff. And so a lot of it is, you know, asking various boards and commissions to really look at what is the bare minimum you need,
right,
to keep going through with the pandemic legally, as well as logistically, and to really, we're just asking everyone to really pare it down as absolute much as possible.
right.
And then we're also going to be evaluating what boards and commissions can we maybe combine.
Mm-hmm.
Again, because we have 63 boards and commissions for a city of less than 50,000. And if you look at other, I mean, I've been looking at other cities and, you know, some have like 11. So there's a number that probably aren't really necessary. Tim, are you still there?
Ooh.
Sorry, I hit something on my computer and everyone disappeared. So it's looking at things holistically. We're trying to look at it more holistically and really decide if we can start merging some boards and commissions together, and try to come up with a little bit more of a workable plan,
Right.
so that people can like start expecting, like, does the social services board and commission have to meet monthly?
I'll tell you the minimum requirements.
Yes.
This is why I'm glad we're having today's meeting and we're having next month's meeting, because the minimum requirement for our social services board by state is 4 meetings a year.
Okay.
So there are boards in other localities that meet quarterly. I honestly don't think that quarterly is sufficient. I mean, and part of that feeling is that things can change more than quarterly. Now, so much of our business is mandated by state and federal.
Yeah.
I don't know that we need to be having a monthly meeting. I don't know how other people feel about that. I miss you all. I like meeting with you monthly. But I also am trying to take into consideration where things are with this pandemic and what it means for our communications department and for other committees and boards.
I think this is Janet. I think we could meet every other month with the idea that if there was important information or things that were changing, we could do some emails of, like if we needed to know what the statistics are. Laura's very good at reaching out to us by email, but maybe meet in Zoom every other month with email contact in between of any changes. I don't know.
Well, I would like to meet next month because we have that approval from council at this point.
Yeah. And that way you'll also make sure you have the 4 mandatory meetings this year.
That's exactly right, because January, February, yes, and September, October, exactly. So that we're thinking exactly right, all's good there. And then maybe look at doing every other month instead of monthly. How do people feel about that? I mean, I think at least during this pandemic, when we have to have, the only way we can have a public meeting is we have to have it by, open to the public. And the only way to do that is to have our communications department involved in the meeting. Once we get through the pandemic, we could relook at this instead of, every other month if you wanted to go back to every month. How do people feel about that idea? Good? Good?
Yeah.
Janet? Lisa? I see your picture, Lisa, but I don't see.
I'm here.
You still
I'm here. Okay.
here with the children.
I have homeschool, so yes.
Yeah.
You okay with
Mine's
that?
upstairs.
It's a lot.
I know.
It's a lot. But what else can we do?
I know.
Everyone's doing their best.
Yeah.
So can you be our voice on this?
Yeah, no, I will. I'll definitely bring that up as far as the boards and the commissions that I'm sitting on. Need to.
So yes, so we as a board are okay with, while this pandemic is, continuing to be in every other month until we can meet in person again and have the meeting open to the public in person.
And that way, in case something happens, it has built in a buffer,
Right.
again, to make sure those 4 meetings are met.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that will be our plan going forward. Any other items, folks? It's just so good to see everybody healthy and well. And May, I'm so excited for you. I hope it all goes smoothly as can be.
Diane, we still have 2 items to talk about.
Oh, you have items. Oh, I'm not looking at my agenda. I'm just looking at all of you because I miss you. Yes, Chair and Vice Chair Nominating Committee. So, like I said, we have 2 positions open right now. Is that correct, Laura? On the board?
3.
3 positions open.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, we do need a new chair, as Chrissy is no longer able to serve on the board. She again wanted to make sure you all understood it's not because she doesn't want to, but it's a work thing. And then we have May as our vice chair, who will be definitely out maybe for next meeting. I'm assuming May. Is that correct?
I will check in with you on that. The other thing is, I may or may not be taking a job in Richmond
Oh, yeah.
in the coming months. Yeah. So everything's not set in stone yet, but if that's the case, I'll be commuting to Richmond during the week.
Yep.
And
Meeting. Yeah.
right. So I will just let you know when if things become official, but just have everybody kind of have that on their radar. So
Okay.
yeah. So we're going to finish up our lease here before we move. So it's going to still be several months, but I'll keep you informed.
Great. Well, this is something Shayla and I talked about earlier when we had our introductory meeting prior to this meeting. We would love to get a few more people who have either currently or in the past been served by social services. So if you know anybody that would be interested and could make this meeting, I mean, we've made a lunchtime meeting because so many people cannot do after work meetings or before work meetings, and generally we've stayed with this for decades now. And everybody that's on the board, you know, when they signed up, they knew what time the meetings were. So I understand that for some folks it's a difficult time. But if you know anyone in the community that may be interested in the board, and they don't have to acknowledge or say that they've been served by social services before. I mean, they can put that on their application to council or not, and we don't need to know it. That's, you know, if they don't mind, we know it. That's up to them. But
Sometimes those applications get made public.
So that's tricky then. Yeah.
Just recently there was some applications for some reason I know were public, so things were crossed out, identifying, but that might not be something someone would catch. So
yeah, so that is tricky. But you know, if you know of somebody and you know they don't want people to know that, then but still refer them and just tell them not to put that on their application.
They could email council that, or somebody could email it and that would be protected information, I believe, in an email from a FOIA request.
Is it to city councilors that would be protected? I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
Well, this is Lisa. I don't have anything that I would want protected, but I can't even find it. And I did find it one time, but now I can't seem to find the application place.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, that's good to know. On the website?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, things seem to have changed on the website a little bit. So maybe I'm just looking at the wrong place. When I go to boards and commissions, I don't see an application.
We got a new website.
Yeah.
In April, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's also when our communications department is at its being maxed out.
About the questions on that thing. Yeah.
And they are still, I think, fixing pieces of the website. So.
Hey, Sina, it's Brian Wheeler
Brian.
here. Since you're talking about me.
Yes.
If you do go to the boards and commissions page, there's a
Yeah.
quick link at the bottom that says apply for a board.
Oh.
Oh,
Now-
yeah.
Now,
Scrolling
that,
down.
that currently
But
is
it
not
doesn't seem to
showing
go
any,
anywhere.
it's not showing anything because right now,
Okay,
the
that's
clerk
what it is.
recently only accepted
Good.
applications through September 11th.
Sorry.
So as they reopen new positions, the clerk will reactivate the application for each position. Does that make
So they
sense?
don't just keep them open until they're filled.
They do not. So their practice right now, the clerks will re-advertise when they're taking applications again. But if you need us to email you the application form itself, we can definitely do that.
Yeah, if you would do that. This is Lisa Brown.
Happy to do so.
Thank you.
And Brian, since you're on and you're also our FOIA officer, if
Yep.
if somebody sent information to council that they received they had at some point in time received social services assistance, would that be FOIAble?
In general, it would be,
Okay.
you know, if you received a communication, generally those are subject to FOIA. I don't know if there's a specific you know, clause in state code that would allow us not to share that document. We'd have to ask the city attorney's office.
Okay.
But with the applications for a board or commission, those are separated into two parts. And with that in mind, that one half of that application is public, the other half is private.
Do you remember which part of the application is private?
The part that has your home address and contact information.
So if somebody then put something in that section,
If they're adding to it, that
that's not protected information, right?
it might not be.
Okay. Okay. I'll double check with John Blair then, or Lisa Robertson about.
Yeah, worth checking with Lisa to see if there's some way we can ask that question in a way that doesn't cause problems. And I'll leave your meeting now.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, at our next meeting, folks, we need to consider chair and vice chair. I want people who are on the board, and that includes new people and old people, to consider whether they would want one of those positions, because we know Chrissy isn't with us now, and we may be losing May. And if it's a great job that you want, May, I'm so happy for you. But we will miss you. And just wishing you all the best in the coming weeks and months with your new little one. So how old is, I forgot how old your child is.
Oh, my son is 5.
Oh, gosh, it doesn't seem like it's been that long.
I know. So that's
Great.
good. Yeah, he'll almost be 6 in February.
Oh, I missed that, May. You're expecting?
Yes, yeah.
Yay.
I'm supposed to be induced on Thursday, so.
Oh, we haven't
See.
seen you in that long. Oh, goodness. Oh, gosh. I have a client and being induced too this week. Okay.
Aw,
Well, God bless
yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And just wishing you and your family all the best, May. And,
Thank you.
you know, I'm sure you'll have time to join us in October, right?
I might be carrying a little one.
That would be wonderful. Yeah, we get to see him.
I would love
That's
to see
right.
it.
5 minutes so we can see the little one. That would be
There we go. Yeah.
okay. Rebecca.
Before I need to go, I'm just wondering, could you remind us who else is on the board who's not here? I'm thinking of LD, and I'm trying to remember who else is still on the board. I know a couple people left.
Yeah, Judy had to leave. This is Jan Kipper. So she said she would be here 12 to 12:30, and then she had Jan Kipper. And if she got finished with Jan Kipper early enough, she'd rejoin us. But so Judy Zeitler is on the board also.
Right.
then, who am I missing, Laura? I don't think I'm missing.
Um,
Oh, LD
yeah,
Perry.
that's it. So Judy can stay on until someone is appointed in her place.
And she has agreed to do that. Judy, like I said, God bless her, has been with us for 10 years.
So does that not work for me the same way? That's so
Yeah.
confusing.
Oh, yes, it does work for you, but you need to
Ah,
reapply, Lisa, okay? So
I know.
if you want to continue on the board, reapply, because if council gets some other applications, and
I
Can
just
I-
had to do it too, so.
Yeah. Can I plead the homeschool, please?
Yes.
Yeah. So here's a picture. I don't know if you all can see it.
Oh, beautiful. That's beautiful. I love it.
So.
oh, life goes on, doesn't it? It's just wonderful.
And it's unfortunate, but May, that's your job, and we'll miss you if you
Yeah.
I can see it happening for you.
Yeah, so Rebecca, our 3 positions are Christy's old spot, Judy's spot, and Lisa hopefully will reapply, so we won't lose hers.
Thanks, Laura.
Don't go, Lisa.
Rooting for you, Lisa.
I think I can do it. I think I have been swamped though too. Yeah,
I know.
I do have lots of good things that I didn't. We're getting ready to wrap up.
Share.
Say,
Share.
I was on a stakeholder meeting with Tim Kaine about a new legislation piece that he's putting out about moms and maternity.
Nice.
So I got to give him my opinion.
Good.
And the other thing is I'm on a stakeholder group for the state certified doula regulations that are coming through, where Medicaid will be able to reimburse doulas. And so anyone who would like a doula who's Medicaid recipients in the near future will be able to have doulas.
That's great news.
Yeah.
Again, trying to even the playing field for people.
Exactly.
Any other news, folks? Announcements?
Annual report, Diane.
What?
Annual report.
Oh, yes. Annual report to council. As you know, we haven't met since February. We gave our last annual report in November.
Oh my God.
So, wondering, you may be able to help us on this, Sina. Is council expecting an annual report this November?
I
Like you guys have stuff on your plates, huh?
I mean, again, it's my first term.
Yeah.
It hasn't come up, but I mean, we've been putting out so many fires
Right.
this year, and everything is so wonky.
Yes.
I mean, if there is an annual report, we will make room for it on the agenda, and I'm sure an annual report, I mean, annual reports in general are good. So, I don't know if it's expected exactly.
I'm just afraid that if we did an annual report this year, it would be my report and not the board's report, because I don't know how, we could get an annual report together. Usually we work on it for 3 or 4 months as a board, and, bring it back and forth, what people want, get them, and I just don't know how we can do that right now.
I mean, really just, even if it's just a basic report, probably maybe a pared down report from other years, where it really is just looking at the foster care numbers, the report numbers, how, the concern that they're down.
Yeah.
Also looking at the increase, I think it is very important that the rest of council also hears that that renewals have to start up again now, that you know, a lot of the information you shared earlier to us, just what is social services going to be struggling with, and how social services, how that snapshot also makes a snapshot of the community, with food stamps and TANF escalating, with Medicaid applications while they're down, but they're actually up.
Right.
If you look at like 2018, I mean, and Medicaid applications are going to be one of those things we're not going to get a really good handle on for another 3 or 4 years,
Right.
because before 2019, it was, you know, such a small group of people could apply for it.
Right.
So it's just not a fair comp. It's not, in general, it's not a fair
Yeah.
apples to apples thing.
Right.
But I think really the SNAP benefits tells a pretty, and the TANF, I think they tell a pretty significant story. And I think those kinds of numbers coming before council, and also, again, that your staff is starting to have to go back out into the field, that, you know, the state regulations we are looking at and what they are and what they're requiring from staff, I think is very important for council to hear, and for the community to hear as well. Because a lot of people will be tuned in, maybe not that night, but will watch it later. And you also never know what the press might report on too. And so, again, I think hearing those kinds of things is very important for our community.
Well, we'll put together, you know, it may not be a whole big PowerPoint, but something similar with the graphs, with the increases in cases, similar to what I've shared with you guys today. And at the same time, it shouldn't be me that's delivering this report to council. So everybody think about it. Think about whether you'd be willing. We can write it, we can do the graphs, and I certainly will be there at the meeting, because that's, you know, that's how we always deliver. I'm often, the chair delivers a report to council, but questions, I'm always there to answer. I don't want to put that on any of your shoulders to have to answer any questions that come up. But at the same time, I think it's more appropriate if one of the board members delivers it to council. So,
And not me.
oh no, not the council. That's not what I was thinking of.
Yeah, no, I'm just making sure, like, it's probably best if I'm not the one either.
You've got to be on the other side of this.
Yes.
So let's, are you guys game for just letting Laura and I and a couple of, you know, my managers put together a report? It's not going to be fancy with PowerPoint stuff, but it will be with numbers and graphs and stuff. And then if somebody can volunteer, we can maybe get it on a council meeting in November. And I'm certainly willing to, whoever volunteers to present to council, to coach on how to present, and I will be there to answer any of council's questions. So it's not a matter that you have to answer any questions, but we really don't, you know, want to be bringing staff in to put PowerPoints together and all that kind of stuff right now. But we should provide an annual report to council. How do people feel about that?
If you could educate me enough, I'd be happy to present it, or if somebody else wants to present it, that would be, they may have more experience than I do, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to take your offer, Janet, if anyone else offers.
Yeah.
Well, maybe somebody else would prefer to do it, whatever.
I can be the backup for Janet.
How do you feel about that, May? Is that okay with
Oh,
you?
yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine,
I'm
because
thinking it probably was.
the baby will be around a month old.
You're going to have a newborn.
Right. You guys are good.
Good job.
I'd love to help out with any, you know, the proofreading and the looking at the graphs and all that, you know, I've done in years prior. It's completely fine with me. I was just going to say, I'm probably not the best person to present in November.
May. You are off the hook. We were not thinking that it would be me. I was teasing you.
Or I could hold the baby and you could present.
There we go.
So Janet, we're putting you down as number 1, and Taylor, we're putting you down as number 2. How's that sound? Does that work for everybody? All right, great. Well, we'll get something together for our next meeting. We'll review, and maybe we can then get on to a November or December council meeting, okay? And thank you, everyone. It's so good to see that everybody's healthy and well, and just, you know, even if it can't be in person, just to see your faces and your smile, and, you know, it's just nice. I appreciate everybody agreeing to the Zoom meeting. And thank you, Brian, for all your help.
Best luck, Meg.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Thanks, everyone.
see ya. Take care, everyone.